Everyone, I have a super important, amazing announcement, and it is that my Maladaptive Schemas Assessment is finally ready to go. So you can click the link tagged in the comment section and go for it. Be sure to be patient. 116 valuable professional questions and it will help you. But let's break it down. What are maladaptive schemas? So welcome to anyone joining from YouTube, or if you're from Instagram, wherever it is, you are probably here because you heard about these schemas and you want to know all about it. So let me dissect it for you. So the first part, I'll just kind of explain briefly what it is, some kind of understanding. But my favorite part is the actual schemas and how it applies to life, how it shows up, where it stunts us, where we are held back, repeat the same patterns. So let's get to it. So there are 20 areas. I call them like mental and emotional blueprints. These areas where we have like a subconscious program that keeps us stuck in how we act. For instance, in my counseling background, and this is where I even found schemas, like it's really hard to like dissect a person's behavior and say, change this one specific behavior and your whole life will change. Because I would see clients like that behavior, whatever issue was going on, was just the manifestation or the reason why, like a deeper reason why they were stuck, hence expressing a certain behavior. So when I learned about these schemas, I realized, oh my goodness, like we have these themes, these areas in life that we tend to kind of get stuck or stunted. And there are different degrees to how, I don't know, how bad it is sometimes, or how severe, or how strongly, if I could say, this influence shows up in our life. And oftentimes we don't just make these up. They happen in early childhood experiences, parents, generations. You know, let's say your parents struggled to really be there for emotional support. Well, you don't just make up and have emotional availability and richness to nourish your child if you never had that for yourself. But when we go back, it's like, okay, well then how are your parents with their parents? Oh, well, like we didn't have that. We were just surviving. And so we start to understand like, oh, that's why maybe in this day and age, even if we're so blessed with a lot of things and stuff, and maybe we're not in survival mode, this is why I'm still maybe lacking in some form of emotional support. But good news, you can fill yourself up with that and then give it to your kids, give it to, you know, whatever relationship or life experience you desire. So these patterns, yes, they are subconscious, there are programs. And the reason I like this is it gives us language and concepts to see, oh, here's where this certain schema is showing up, versus that's just who I am. Or sometimes we become misinformed and think like we are being kind, Christian, loving, when in reality, like the schema assessment will diagnose what's going on. You're an overgiver, people pleaser. I mean, the schemas are more like have technical words a little bit more, but if you get to the heart of what's going on, when I took this assessment for myself, I was shocked. It illuminated truth, which was very freeing because the Bible says the truth will set you free. But this resource helped me understand exactly why I was just, you know, mirroring, reflecting, or manifesting a certain life because of certain limitations that I was stuck in. So the one thing I want to say before I go into some good examples is the word maladaptive. You know, it's the opposite of adapting. So when we're kids, the reason why, you know, in psychology, kids are so resilient is because they just adapt. They form, they'll do what they need to do subconsciously. They learn these rules growing up in our homes and families to belong, to attach. This is what attachment theory says. I gotta do X, Y, and Z to stay in this family and belong for survival. And they adapt, and it works when you're young. But when you're an adult, especially a woman who wants to get in tune with herself, her womanhood, her feminine essence, she wants to have the abundant life. Because if you followed me for a while, I talk about this abundant life that starts within. You start to realize some of these survival behaviors, themes, things that we do, these emotional, mental blueprints we're stuck in, that's the opposite of abundance. And so it becomes maladaptive. You can't really, integrate into abundance when we're still operating in the scarcity mode, or we're still, our nervous system still feels certain unsafety. And so it's like turning on the lights, whatever tools we need to use. Schemas is one tool out of many. We turn on the lights and say, what's really going on? Because I want to be real with myself. I want to experience abundance. I want to come home to myself. Like, where do I just need to get real? So let's get into it. Let's start with my story, I guess. A brief version. So again, professionally speaking with clients, it helped me understand these schemas where people were stuck in these patterns. But on a personal level, at that time, my life was going good. Okay, I had business, everything was going good. On the professional front, it was good. It was really, really good. On a personal heart level for a woman, the desires of my heart were not met. At the time, I was looking for, or I was desiring the love of my life. And like, as any girl out there who wants to be swooned and loved and cherished and adored and all these different things. And I just did not understand why I was just not attracting the guys I wanted. And it's like what every girl ever complains about. The guys who I want don't want me. The guys who are interested in me, I'm not interested in them. And I was just stuck in this all the time. And this was before I understood, very important side note, my issues with emotional unavailability. Man, I remember I would either be stuck in the friend zone, I hate to say it, or men who respected the masculine, I guess, part of me, of like my life, my degrees, my businesses, like all these different things that they respected, but they couldn't honor and cherish me because I guess the feminine part of me didn't feel safe to be expressed, to be seen and shown. And I remember probably the lowest low was I got in a situation with, it wasn't even a situation, it was like a small encounter with a guy who, it was just, well, let's just say that's when I learned what breadcrumbing is, because I almost thought I was just feasting until I realized it was an illusion. I was feasting on crumbs and I was celebrating it. And thank God I had a coach that started to call out, like, oh, the truth is so hard sometimes, but it sets you free. And now I can help women, and now I can laugh back, so you know when that's a sign of like healing. But I remember, oh my goodness, probably, you know how sometimes they say your biggest blessing is your biggest curse? Whereas like this show, this guy, Monk was his name, and he had like OCD and he had to clean everything, but they would always recruit him for like investigations because he'd like see everything that's out of place. And anytime he'd catch something that's out of place because of his OCD, they'd be like, wow, how'd you do that? And he'd say, oh, it's a gift and a curse because of all the, you know, the stuff that follow with those rituals. But so anyways, when I started to work with my first coach, in fact, I think it was like the week of or something, I saw this movie. Of course, it was like romance. And I was like floored, like the way this man honored and loved this woman. And she was smart. She was like a nurse. It was like from back in the day. She was very confident who she was, but still soft. Like I noticed, like, I was like, wow, she's so like healthy and grounded and like has her own identity and individuality, but there's still a softness and a radiance and a playfulness. And I was like, wow, I love this duality that I see within her. And then her guy in this film was this like, you know, every girl's dream guy, like strong, and he had like, he was like the leader, and he was smart, and he was protective, and you know, all these typical main characters of any movie basically. But there's something about that I love, that even though she had her own life, he was so like masculine is the word. He adored this woman in this movie. How he would like look at her even in the movie was just like, whoa, that like took me back. Like, he loves her, he honors her, he cherishes her, he was always protecting her. Like, he was a devoted lover. That's basically how I can say that, you know. He was like the dream man basically. And I was like, I want that. I want that for myself. And it just so happened to be that I finally, thank goodness, signed up, started to work with a coach to help me. And by the way, I didn't go working with this coach for love. I think I would have been too embarrassed at the time, maybe too or too prideful or too, I don't know, suppressed to even admit. But I finally started to say, you know, I want to be loved. I had all these different goals, and I said, I need some help. Anyways, kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but what happened was I did, in the midst of this experience, like almost immediately, like I wrote down this like list of things I desired from a man. And I wrote down like how he looks at me, how he adores me. I want him to cherish my heart. I want him to have fun with me. I want him to protect. I want all these different things. And then my coach said, wonderful, Elena. Now, how are you being a reciprocal of all of that? How are you being a match? If this is what you desire from a man, you described someone who is quite in their healthy manhood and masculinity, and you know what we know about polarity and, you know, being a reciprocal, a match for that. Those are the type of men who desire women who are open and in their feminine essence, and they're like feelable. The feminine is very in her feeling alive. She's open, safe, playful. I mean, there's so many different things, but like how are you being a reciprocal of that? And I thought about it, and I was like, well, I'm a good girl, like I'm a catch, like how all my friends would talk, like we're smart, we have degrees, we have this, we do that. And my coach was like, okay, you keep telling me about all these things you are because of what you've done, but what about just an essence of who you are? And let me tell you, that's basically when my feminine, I don't know, experience, depth, like transformation basically started. How my heart started to come alive, come online. And so how did some of these schemas even help me? Because I am a little technical. I love the analytical side. My psychology part of me loves knowing things, but it was more about like being aware of things, but then being. And so let me share with you a little bit of some of the schemas I did score high in, but it helped me kind of understand, in order to understand how to become free and be flowy and experience my emotions and process out blocks that were literally preventing me from experiencing love. And so this is my story with love and dating, but this is for any woman. I don't care if you're married. I don't care if you're trying to have a better relationship with your kids. I don't care. Like, life is a relationship to us. That is masculine energy. It's not just a man. Okay, your relationship with life, like life can give, your job can provide, your church, God, like those are all those like oftentimes masculine energies that give to us. And so how are we in the feminine receiving? Kind of a deep topic. I have other videos about that. But so I started to say, I'm so serious about attracting naturally, not forcing, but being the reciprocal of what I desire. And it means I need to open up my heart and stuff. And no surprise, when I had taken this assessment, the schema assessment that like landed in my life supernaturally, that I now use with every single client because it's amazing. I was surprised, and I was not surprised at my results. My results. Oh dear. Okay, so without any specific order, this is kind of what I wrote down from what I remembered. One of the really high schemas I scored in was emotional constriction, and that's not a compliment. Can you believe my whole life I thought that was such a compliment? And it wasn't. I thought like having a poker face and being serious and composed and collected, and it didn't help that I came from certain like religious structures. Not saying they're bad, but just like certain, you know, boxes in my life, what it means to be the oldest girl or a daughter or this or that or a Christian or a counselor or. And somehow I became in a little box where I did well, I performed professionally, everything was great, wonderful life on the outside again. But in terms of my heart, you were not gonna know my thoughts, my feelings. I wasn't gonna express it. I had a hard time just being open. Sure, I could play around with my friends and be fun, but like if I was out in public or around men, it was like, oops, professional. You can't like come like permeate into me. I'm gonna be the one pushing off my energy. I wasn't open, and I had such a hard time without realizing it until I, you know, took this assessment, started to read what this meant. But I had such a hard time just being and being playful and again expressing myself, all of that. And instead there's a lot of like suppressed stiffness, awkwardness from my emotions to my body. And that totally closed off my heart. You know, no feminine access for me. And that's not to say I couldn't feel anything. I could not share it with anyone. There was this weird embarrassment I'd have with showing, expressing a need, a desire. Until again, I started to do the healing work and started to understand what was going on. And I started to tap into my heart and practice that, I don't know, call it a skill. What else started to transform my heart and open myself up to, you know, experience life, be alive. This is basically the abundant life. You become alive within you, and then you draw in anything that celebrates and desires that. So another one I had was subjugation and subjugation / invalidation. That was a very technical term even for me, but basically what that means is you're used to being like the sub person, like subordinate. You know, everyone else has an upper hand in terms of making a decision. Oh, you want ice cream? Okay, fine, we can go get ice cream. But what do I want? No, we can get ice cream. You know, you can see how these schemas kind of blend in. And when I was so in that kind of codependence, people pleasing, whatever you want, no, like we can have it your way, it was hard for me then to speak up if I did feel maybe disrespected, or even if I did have a desire. And so you could see this codependency kind of take over. And if I can't be in my fullness of my feminine, well, what guys, like if men have, how healthy men have this thing where they want to provide, protect, problem solve, and have a solution. It doesn't have to be these like massive life problems. I could be like, ooh, like I am craving a nice lemonade right now. And you know, you can have a guy who's like, okay, I know this new restaurant, let's go. Or hey, let's make something together. And you create these abundant life things. But if a woman, you're not even tapped into that and you can't even speak up, then either you're going to attract someone who's the boss and does everything for you and kind of goes into that controlling mode and it's whatever he wants, or I don't know, or I guess that's the only like codependent spectrum of a relationship you can attract, because if you don't let your heart and voice be known, then there's not going to be a man or a person who can really desire to protect and adore and cherish your heart like that. A couple other things, unrelenting standards, also known as hypercriticalness, self-sacrifice. I mean, honestly, a lot of the girls I've worked with struggle with this. On the outside, wow, look at my accolades, look at my certificates, I'm doing this, I'm involved in that, oh my goodness, I'm basically reincarnated Jesus, Holy Spirit, Christ, God, Savior, angel for everyone. And that's not how you're supposed to be as a woman. Don't get me wrong, like serving people, like their sacrificial love, having, you know, certain levels of expertise or wisdom, standards, that's wonderful. But there's a difference that I even learned in the feminine, giving out of a space of rest and nourishment, and because like you're moved to give because you have to give, versus over functioning, kind of like that masculine mode people will say sometimes, of doing, you're you're depleted, you're just giving and forcing and making things happen. And it's so just depleting, it's exhausting. That's where women have burnout, and it's really hard to just, I mean, it's the opposite of just like resting and radiating and attracting good things. And you could still be a good Christian person or whatever you want. It's just, all of this is, where are my behaviors coming from? All these schemas provide some kind of illumination for your motives. Why am I doing this? What am I trying to gain? Love, approval, attention, acceptance? Or out of my abundance, I'm good, I'm surrendered, I'm rested, I'm nourished. Out of that, I give and I bless and I share with the world. Totally different energy. And that to me is mental, emotional well-being. That is the realest abundance and wealth that you can have. And I'll kind of wrap up with a couple more things, a couple fun, I guess, examples that I'll have with clients. Oftentimes, here's one that comes out. I remember working with a new client once, and she was telling me about how she's so strict and she has these schedules and she, involved in so many things, and she's always telling herself to get up, get it done. Why are you laying around? You know, she starts to narrate basically this voice of how she talks to herself. And I started to think like, wow, Is this how you talk to yourself? Like, you're very like, come on, do it. Go to the gym, do this, moving on, stop being lazy, you know, these different things. And I said, is that the voice that you have that you speak to yourself with? And she's like, well, yeah, I mean, I just like encourage myself, like get it done, you know? She took a lot of pride off of like from that. And she scored very high on schemas like this unrelenting high standards in life. But I said, you know what? I wonder if that's not actually encouragement. I wonder if you scored pretty high on the punitive, that like self-punishing schema. She's like, what are you talking about? She takes the schema, and sure enough, she scored pretty high in this punitive schema, where this motivating voice wasn't necessarily encouraging and out of love and worthiness. It was like punishment, hurry up, do this, you deserve. It was just basically a bully voice. And I've met so many women who think that they're doing things out of encouragement, and even women who will be like, well, Holy Spirit told me to do all these different things, and it just sounds like from the outside such a bully. And when they take these assessments and they find out that's a punitive bully voice, and that sometimes shows up in this like, I need to have great grades, I have to go to the gym, I'm here's a new diet, and all of these schemas go back to like, what's really going on? Are you operating out of the highest form of love and honor and cherishing your body as a vessel, and that's why you're going to the gym? Or is it because, oh, you messed up, like there's unworthiness, this meanness coming out, now I have to starve myself, now I have to do this and that? And of course, like, think of things as a spectrum. The worse it gets, the, you know, any schema, the more significant and severe it goes, and sometimes to the extent of, you know, mental, emotional health problems. So there's so many different schemas, and the purpose of this is not for you to just gain more knowledge, because if you are, the feminine has to be in her essence, her heart, connected to her being, right? And it's, if you think this schema is just going to give you more information, fine, it'll give you more information. But what transforms people is start to work through these things that are manifesting and holding them back. And that, you know, the motto is, you have to feel to heal, okay? Or even overthinking is a sign of underfeeling. Like, the feminine especially has to move through certain emotions to heal. And that's where my strength is, my forte at this point, helping clients. I've done so much inner work myself. But that's the thing, like the girls that sign up to my Talk Shop membership, it's like an inner healing journey where I guide women to actively understand how to feel emotions, how to process them, what do we do with our nervous system. The reason I'm so passionate about this is, let's go back to my first story. When I started to work through these things and sit and process, like let's say I said, okay, I don't want to have emotional constriction. I want to start to open up and feel safe. Okay, next time I'm in a room, I want to like be vibrant. I want my body language to literally open up. I want to be open. Okay, I want to do this. That's my goal. That's mentally what I've set. And then I show up, let's say, to this restaurant on a date, and I'm like, hi, stiff, feeling awkward. Guess what? Those are the things I had to go home and start to process what was going on. And because I understand a lot about the brain and traumas and how that stuff manifests in our body and how to clear it up, the more I started to sit and clean out those energies that made me this illusion, you know, stay safe, stay, like, hold yourself together, no expressiveness or animation. The more I started to work through that, I started to blossom. I started to become more and more into that feminine space that I desire. And sure enough, my success story, for me at least, I don't care how many degrees I have, I love learning, all that's wonderful, but nothing has been better than naturally attracting the love of my life. I actually got married this year, and when I was working with my coach, I kid you not, like 2 weeks into it, like almost immediately, I had this amazing man come into my life, and I'm like, it's a testimony till this day, like how I wrote out how I want him to look at me, talk to me, hug me, love me, provide for me, all these, like how I wanted to feel as a result. I got that, but I had to tap into my heart and let go of old patterns that were keeping me stuck, quote unquote safe, right? It was maladaptive. I learned how to start to like clean out any emotional blocks that were in my way. And the more I do that just in life, the more my marriage still continues to thrive and we bond, the more my life, my relationships, my friends, like everything in my life starts to feel better because I'm becoming more and more open as myself and able to receive all the blessings that I desire. So hopefully this illuminated quite a few things for you, but do take this assessment. It is 116 questions. They're professional. It's a professional assessment. So be very, just be patient. Answer the questions how the situation shows up, not how you wish you were. Like, just be very raw and honest. Scores of 4 and higher tend to be significant, although look at patterns, because I've worked with women who are so suppressed and shut off in their heart. They scored so low on everything, where I was like, well, you wouldn't be reaching out for coaching help if everything was perfect. What's going on? And sometimes those are the women who really are just have disconnected from their heart that much. So you will at the end, see your results. You'll see an awesome PDF that just kind of goes into and explains a bunch of stuff, because I want people to learn more. But what's even better is I want people to really heal and feel. And that's a process. You have to submerge into that. So considering joining my membership, where I have women who are on this journey, processing triggers, emotions, healing from these stuck patterns, like that's going to change your life. Not just knowing your results, it's understanding how to implement in your life, manifest it like that. So hopefully this was helpful. Like, subscribe, share this assessment with your friends. Like, I don't know, spread it around. You're able to do that. And I hope that you are able to experience the abundance that you desire. So blessings and bliss, and I'll see you in the next one.